Welcome back to Power and Politics. Well, the countdown is on. 2 days left until MPs migrate back to Ottawa. So who better than to call in than our top political insiders for Point of Order, Jaime Watt and Scott Reid. But before we get there, let's start off with the big global story of the day. The Arab world on edge right now. Today, the Egyptian government turned off cell phones and internet service as anti-government protests boiled over, and similar unrest is ongoing in Tunisia and Yemen. So let's start with Jaime. What do you think all this means for Prime Minister Harper and for the government's foreign policy?
Well, Rosie, what we're seeing on television today is absolutely unprecedented, really uncertain time in that part of the world. Your question is, Rosie's question was about what should Prime Minister Harper do, and I think what he should do is not hedge his bets. I think Canada should act as a nation. I think it's time for us to side clearly with those who believe in democracy and who believe in human rights. You know, turning off the internet, Scott, I don't even know how you do that, but we should be for it.
Big button.
Well, they shouldn't be pushing
all
that button.
When I was in the Prime Minister's office, we had the internet button.
To have
we had the internet button. I never pushed it, but it was right there.
And we shouldn't be for anybody that's
no,
pushing it.
That's right.
One thing that I think that's very clear is that folks over there are passionately committed to change, and this is going to go on for a while, so we better get on the right side of it.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. First, before we even get to that in terms of the foreign policy and managing the interests out there, I think we need to start with managing our own people and our own nationals and making certain that they're safe and well afforded for. So as an example, we have tons of people in Egypt. We need to make certain as this situation deteriorates on the streets that they can get in and out fast, because we all have seen what happens. Second, whatever happens in the next few weeks, there's going to be an exodus from that country. Right. And we're going to have to prepare our system now to manage that. And we should be thinking now rather than scrambling at the last second. But finally, in terms of the strategic interest and in terms of foreign policy and the position we should take, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that we ought to be on the side of those that are demanding change. It's been 30 years of an authoritarian regime. But we also have to be responsible. What is going to come next? Are we going to see the unfortunate stability of a nasty authoritarian regime replaced with the instability and the craziness of what? That we have to think about, and we have to think about it from a regional perspective, not just that one single nation.
On that, we both agree, Russ.
Okay, fellas, next topic. The Conservatives released another ad yesterday, and again targeted Liberal leader Michael Ignatieff. This time, they used Ignatieff's own words against him. Well, not quite, but let's look at the ad and the context, and then we'll get your take.
At a time of economic uncertainty, does it make sense to jeopardize our recovery with an unnecessary election? Let's ask Michael Ignatieff.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Ignatieff, he didn't come back for you.
Are we ready to fight for the Canadian family? What's the answer to that? Yes! 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 Way!
Okay, Scott.
Howard Dean, Scott,
I'm guessing Scott Reid's got an opinion. Is this too far?
Yes, it is too far, and I think it's really important to say so and to call it out, because you and I have both been involved in running campaigns. We've both been involved in helping to put together ads and to approving ads that go on television, and some of them have been tough and hard-hitting. When you cross the line, it's important to say so. There's a tyranny taking place right now in the discussion around this discussion, and it's a tyranny of false moral equivalency. This is not just another ad that's like others. It wasn't misleading, it was manufactured. And if you're going to say it's okay to tell people not what's true, but things that are literally made up, you're going to take his answer to one question and substitute it in answer to another, it's wrong. Tom Flanagan wrote about the Harper Conservatives that they felt no obligation to speak the truth, that they were happy if it was plausible. This is wrong. It should be called out for, Scott, and the media should do so as well.
Looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a quack, quack, quack. It's a duck. This guy, he said he's going to vote against the budget. He's voting against corporate tax.
It's about the ad. It's about a total lack of integrity. He's got his own ads.
It's manufactured. He's got his bus tour.
Take him on policy and what he says.
You want to see ads that are manufactured? Remember this one? Here's an ad that you guys made. You can say that it didn't run very often. It was only up for a little time. You made the ad, Scott, and it took a policy position. You're right. It was complete BS.
No, it wasn't. First of all,
I'm sorry. This is complete moral equivalency of these
We had the integrity in the
You made it.
We had the integrity to say, you know what?
We need that bell. We need that bell. They made that ad and put it on the internet.
We demonstrated integrity when Stephen Harper has demonstrated a total and utter lack of it.
I'm glad you guys like each other off the set, because that was fired up. Okay, here's something else that's fired up. Election speculation, and MPs aren't even back yet, but they do get back on Monday. So let's go through what each leader or some of the leaders need to achieve this week. Jaime Watt, start us off.
Okay, just very quickly on the four leaders. Prime Minister Harper just has to keep doing what he's doing. I think the ballot question's getting set nicely for him, which is it's the economy, stupid, and as long as that's the ballot question, that's to his advantage. We'll see how it works out. That's
think so.
Stay the
We'll
course with Prime Minister Harper. I think Mr. Ignatieff, he's got to buy a clue. I think he's just got to figure out where he's going and what he's doing. Well, buy a vowel, buy a clue, buy something, because his plan to fight on corporate tax cuts isn't going to cut it. Jack Layton, speaking of game shows, Jack Layton has got to trade away door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, anything to get that budget passed and save his political skin. And Mr. Duceppe, I think, is simple. Light a candle, say a prayer, cross his fingers, make sure he doesn't lose political subsidies.
All right. Here's my take. Mr. Harper, the Prime Minister of the country, the man who lacks integrity in the things that he says to the public and that he advertises about his opponents. What he needs to do, ad hominem and actually based completely in reality, he actually has to spend next week beginning to precondition that the Parliament is dysfunctional. We've seen him do it before, but that's going to be the precondition for him to change his tune and say, you know what, I am in favor of a campaign, because he is, and he's going to want one. Ignatieff, he needs to do something that the Liberals haven't done in the past, and I think he is prepared to do it now, and that's not chase the ambulance every morning. Focus in question period on a consistent message. Fighter jets and corporate tax cuts are wrong priorities for Canadians. I think you're going to hear a lot of that. And, I'll just stop at Layton because, frankly, I think what he needs to do is the most interesting and the most challenging. First, he's got to put a net over Thomas Mulcair, get him off stage when Mulcair starts talking tough, because Jack Layton's job is to strike a deal, and he's going to have to kiss a lot of Tory rear end in the next week.
Okay, last topic, the one I dread the most, but we talk about the most in spite of ourselves. Will there be a spring election? Scott Reid, weigh in.
Mais oui, Rosie! There is going to be an election, and there's going to be an election for one reason and one reason only. Stephen Harper wants one. He's gone through the pretense of saying he doesn't want one, but we know he does. We know he does for a number of reasons. As you like to say about people, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do. What has he been doing? Spending millions of dollars on advertisements to precondition for the election and to hammer his opponents, even in a way that completely, as I've mentioned, lacks integrity and honesty. And secondly, what he's been doing, right? He's been telling Jack Layton no. Layton couldn't be more obvious. If he showed up with in a top hat with flowers and chocolate, right? I come a courting, Mr. Harper.
Champagne too.
Right? And Harper wouldn't even meet with him over the budget. It is obvious that he wants to have an election, so that's why we're going to have an election, because in this Parliament, he only needs to strike a deal with one party, and that's not impossible.
I think actually there's going to be a bunch of parties that are going to want an election this year, because I think 3 things are happening behind the scenes which are militating towards an election. The first one is the discount on the party that triggers an election has been pretty much removed. Even if Canadians are not enthusiastic about an election, we're not where we were a year ago. Secondly, nothing's happening outside of an election environment. And I believe campaigns matter, and I know you believe campaigns matter. And I think at some point people are going to say, you know what, let's mix it up and see what happens.
You're going to snap your fingers and everything changes? People are going to like what they don't like?
The third reason is because these things are always driven in part by the human dimension. And one of the human dimensions we have here is a lot of people in Ottawa who've been living 6 months at a time. And no, that's not a reason there should be an election, but that's one of the reasons elections do get called. They haven't unpacked their boxes, they haven't moved their kids and their family, and they just want some certainty in their lives.
That's right. And
we're going to have an election because Harper thinks he can win.
We can't plan our vacations because we don't know what the heck is going on.
You want to have a holiday.
That's
Sandals, here you come.
And that's the end of Point of Order for another week. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Jamie.
We'll see you later.
See you next week.